Welcome to the Future of Work community. We are so excited to have our guest facilitator today, who is brought to you by one of our strongest ambassadors of this community, Sean Fisher. Take it away, Sean.
Thank you so much. So, Dr. Jones, are you ready for the first question?
I am.
Okay. Can you provide insights into your consulting experience with AI implementation in workplace environments?
Yeah, so I first just want to say, Lisa, thank you so much for this platform and this space to have this conversation. Very much needed, and I'm just so humble that you have welcomed me back here. And Sean, Mr. Fisher, again, thank you for facilitating this. So absolutely, I am very passionate about this subject because some of the things that we're going to talk about today, as to some of the things that we should be doing in our workplace, was exactly what brought me here today, was curiosity. As I heard about AI and started to understand a little bit about what it could do, I became very curious. Like, I wanted to know what this technology was or what it was going to mean for the industry, whether it's higher ed, K-12, the workplace. I really became curious. And so that curiosity has led me down into lots of rabbit holes. But I think I came out with information that I think is important for everybody to know, which is learning and being curious and diving in and figuring out what the problem is that we want to solve in our workplace, and how a tool like artificial intelligence can get us there. So, across organizations, the biggest lesson that I've learned is that we still have to look at people, as the humans in the loop. And not just technology that can solve all the problems, but still understanding that we have to demonstrate trust and learning about the process. In terms of AI initiatives, that succeed and connect with real business needs, I think it's important for us to still understand what are the needs of the industry and how AI can help support that. Making sure that we're consistent with building that trust in that community, in that culture of trust. And the reason why that's important is because we're always hearing about how AI is going to take over industries, jobs are going to be lost, things like that. And so leadership and organizations really need to understand that this is a real issue for employees. Employees are, no one wants to really come to work and really worry about, is their job going to be taken the next day? So even though AI is disruptive, we as leaders within organizations need to understand how to keep the human involved and really invest in those human skills. Human skills such as communication, leadership, problem solving, because those skills are going to be able to allow humans to understand how to use these tools and then move in those directions. So, in terms of like consultancy, I think for me, I've learned that organizations are really kind of struggling, right, on trying to figure out how these tools, how this technology is going to, improve outcomes or make more money or cut down on humans. And I just say to stop and let's look at this from a holistic perspective in terms of valuing the human experience. We need employees to be employed in organizations, and we need these employees to understand how the tools are going to be used to effectively get the job done and solve problems. So, we always want to rush on trying to figure out how to, you know, um, be more productive or make more money. But I always inform organizations to build robust strategies around AI usage and adoption, and always understand that we need to value those human basic skills, the things that make us human, because humans create organizations, and investing in humans first is the real key to success, I believe.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Jones. And so this is an oversimplification, but the main thing I took from this is that two things. AI is not going to really replace people's jobs in the way that we think they're going to actually enhance some of their performance. Additionally, we should always be focusing on keeping the human in the loop. Does that sound
Absolutely. And this is an interesting trend. Organizations, when AI first came out, like agentic AI, which means that there are automations that organizations can put in place to kind of bypass the human experience, right? So there was like a downshift in not hiring humans to do like data entry and some of these mundane tasks. And so there was a drop of rehiring or even laying off. But what we're finding again is that organizations maybe have missed the mark a little bit. And now they're starting to understand that value of the human experience. So we're seeing just a little bit of a trend up in rehiring humans back on, or posting positions that require that when they first said, okay, wait a minute, let me downsize. They then saw that there was a gap there, and now they're sizing a little bit back up. And that's because a lot of organizations, just like us, are trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure out how they can, make that switch or change or downsize. But then they're finding that maybe we made a little bit of a mistake. So let me go back and rehire humans, but not only just rehire humans, but hire the ones that are trained in using these tools. So I think that's important. So AI literacy, understanding how organizations need to structure themselves on not just getting rid of humans, but rehiring and training humans on how to use this technology. I think we're going to keep seeing that trend up a little bit more as organizations are really trying to figure out this whole thing.
Hey, thank you so much. And everyone, I'd be remiss as a facilitator if I didn't emphasize the structure. So Dr. Jones and I plan to, let me actually transition over to Lisa. I saw, Lisa, I saw a change in the calendar. Is this 45 minutes or an hour?
It's typically an hour. Does it show
Okay.
up as 45 minutes?
It did show up as 12 to 12:45. Just wanted to make
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, I think as long as we have the end at the top of the hour, I think it's okay. And if other people need to drop off, they can.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks for
So
asking.
everyone, thank you. So everyone, Dr. Jones and I had planned to go for about 40 minutes, question wise, and then we're going to open up the last 15 to 20 minutes for questions. However, if you have a question that's just really time sensitive, please feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll recover that and I'll post it to Dr. Jones. And actually, Dr. Jones, do you mind? Because we have a smaller group. If someone has a question that's better suited to be delivered orally, they unmute and ask that question.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I'm talking, we're going through some of the questions. You want to chime in, add your perspective, or ask questions, please feel free to do so.
I'll take that opportunity. Thank you for offering it, Sean and Nikita. First of all, thank you so much for that foundational information. I feel like you're speaking the language, right? Which is we know that AI is being implemented in workplaces, but we also know on the back end of that, sorry, on the front end is people losing their jobs, right? To companies over, I guess, oversimplifying the need for AI. And then we know what's coming, right? Is there needs to be humans in the loop to make sure it's getting done. But a part of me feels like that's business strategy, right? Like I think a lot of businesses may be using this AI opportunity to kind of like purge some of their employees and then they're not worried about having to rehire. Have you maybe thought about that, maybe seen a little bit of that information somewhere?
I have, and some of the trends that I'm seeing is that there's new positions that we've never seen before. Some of these new positions require the skills for AI, and like you said, this is kind of like the thing that happens in organizations where you're doing away with what didn't work, and you're restructuring, you're recreating things that answers the questions for the future. So we're seeing this trend of kind of like when we say downsizing or organizations are getting rid of employees, it's really just a way to kind of meet the demands of the future. So we're going to see new jobs that are created that we've never seen before. Most or pretty much all of these skills are going to require some type of AI literacy. And I think this is just a way of organizations trying to figure it out. Organizations in this culture are concerned with the bottom line. So, how to cut costs, how to increase profit and revenue. And I think that as organizations, as the industry is starting to kind of see this trend and shift, um, some of the smaller organizations need to meet that demand. Not only smaller organizations, but also education as well. Education needs to be able to meet this demand with providing those skills and that education needed. So I think, yeah, downsize is going to occur. Layoffs, as we're seeing right now, are catastrophic, but we are seeing an increase of new jobs that are requiring AI skill set. And so we have to meet those demands. And I think part of this conversation, having this conversation, is trending in that way. It's a positive thing.
Thank you.
Along those same lines, Dr. Jones, I have a very narrow and specific question. What does the integration of AI in the workplace entail for non-technical employees, and how can they adapt to those changes?
Oh yeah, this is a really great question. So what I'm learning as far as research and also just what I'm kind of seeing trends and also what I'm learning from like the large people who are involved in AI and technology. You from Sam Altman to founders of other AI organizations and technology, is that they're teaching their kids, right, to still value creativity, um, problem solving, communication. Public speaking is one of those. So as we think about trying to understand how to code and how to do all this technical thing, problem solving, creativity, are one of the main things, of so many skills that we need to know to master that are still relevant and are going to be relevant through this AI trend. Um, Problem solving and creativity is one because we still have to understand what the problem is that we want to seek before we know what tool to use to solve that problem. So we can't solve problems if we don't know which tool is going to be the most effective. Creativity and the thirst for learning. I heard Sam Altman, so many of these say that these are the things that they're still teaching their kids. And so we're not just seeing that in terms of like, what future do these people see this trend is going, but what are we seeing in research? What are the industry, what are hiring managers seeing that they need still that are going to be consistent throughout, their hiring strategies? They're finding that you know, communication and teamwork, the ability to be empathetic and just be a decent human being. This sounds like light and fluffy, but these are going to be core skills that are required, whether we have technology or not. So absolutely understanding the technical understanding of what AI can do, but just being a decent human, listening, being there and available, for to solve problems and to be able to solve conflicts, and to provide those resolutions are going to be key in understanding. Wow, I have all of these core foundational um, skills. Now, how can AI complement that? Not not to just do it for me, but how can I use technology like AI as a foundation of all of these skills that I think are going to be important, that are going to be consistent across the board. Something that I wanted to share, and I think It is, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but I did some research back in 2024. And this is where I became really curious, right? I was really curious about, what is it going to be? What is it going to look like? And what are the skills that we as higher ed, K 12, need to start teaching our children for hiring managers to look at them as someone to be employable, right? So what I found was that, and what's consistent with the research now, is that AI adoption outpaces workplace readiness. So we're really not doing our best in preparing our future leaders on AI readiness. So there is a gap there in terms of the skills that they have and the skills that the industry wants. There's also a lack in practical experience in AI in terms of like hiring challenges. So can candidates demonstrate that they have the skills to be AI ready? And some of those skills are not just technical. They're also some of those what we would consider soft skills, like leadership and problem solving and communication and teamwork, things like that. There's also a balance in AI skills that are crucial. So there's a balance in the non-technical and the technical skill set that we need to be able to ready our industry for. And education needs to shift from um, applicable driven learning in terms of like, can they apply what they're learning in the industry in different areas of solving problems. So what that means is I have a problem. I can't connect well with the population that I need to sell something to, for example. And so, what are those skills that this employee needs to solve that problem? They need to have the ability to understand the problem and then dig into an arsenal of tools of AI technology to then use to solve that problem and how they can demonstrate that in multiple ways. So I'll share, this slide deck with you, but I wanted to share, some of the findings that I had, and digging a little bit deeper into that question, if that answers your question. But it's very interesting in terms of I believe that the core skill set here, problem solving, teamwork, communication, being curious and innovative are going to be the consistent skill sets that's going to be the foundation for being workplace ready when it comes to AI.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. So again, it pairs back to your original theme that AI is going to enhance the work of folks. And it sounds like some of the old things are still relevant. We need to have those soft skills. So we need to make sure that we are not losing our soft skills in this digital age. No, thank you. So let me just jump around a little bit. You touched on quite a few of our questions. Okay. As AI becomes increasingly integrated into daily operations, what ethical considerations should organizations have?
Absolutely. We're hearing a lot about ethical AI and how do I use AI the correct way, the responsible way. And this is a very important topic because I believe that a lot of organizations that I've come across are like, how can I deploy this technology to, decrease our IT staff, or how can I get rid of the fluff so that I can get right to the core, so I can reduce overall expenses and increase revenue. And the fact of the matter is, employees are very nervous about this because if you go into an organization, the leadership sets the culture. And so employees can understand that if AI is here to downsize and to increase profit and revenue, then where do I land? Where do I sit in this space? And so that can add to morale being low. It can add to psychological safety being a threat there. So that's part of, I believe, the ethical solution is assuring your employees that humans come first. And you're going to, as leaders, take the steps to make sure that humans and their needs are addressed and they come first. And in that, understanding that AI has the ability, if it's not implemented properly, AI has the ability to be disruptive very, very fast and very vast, which means that if you, we understand that AI, when we implement it, it can be very disruptive and very quick to disrupt. So we have to understand that being cautious and taking things one step at a time is going to be important to making sure that we are implementing AI ethically. A lot of organizations are also looking for, that the new thing out there, the thing that's on the market that's going to solve all of their problems, and taking things step by step, understanding what they need, what the problem is, and how AI can help address that is going to be very important. So making sure that when you implement AI, that you're going to mitigate risk as much as possible, which means that there's things that an employer can implement to to hire for hiring strategies that can be very disruptive and very unfair. So making sure that there's transparency, that there's no misuse of data, that you're not over relying on AI, that humans are looking at the information, not just looking at the data that comes out and making those decisions on that, but they're really looking at things from a human perspective. So things like making sure that privacy and privacy is protected, making sure that when you're evaluating data, that you're looking at it from a human perspective, and that you're transparent. If you as a leader, you're using AI, make sure that your employees know, and that you are open as a leader to teaching your employees on how to use AI. So that's very important in terms of accountability. Um, AI can be very disruptive very quickly. So if you're not using it responsibly, if you're rushing to use a tool and to implement it, it can be very catastrophic. One example I can think of is that, one main example is that employers would use AI to screen candidates. And you may train an AI to screen candidates in a certain way. And then if you are not careful, you can exclude candidates that otherwise should be at the table. Even for interviews, AI has been used to screen interview candidates. And so based on the parameters that you set, it can exclude candidates that otherwise, if a human was in the loop, would be able to be a part of that process. So making sure that if you're using AI, use it responsibly, understand what's happening in the background, and making sure that it's not biased and it's not leaving people who need to be at the table, behind.
No, thank you. And that all speaks to psychological safety. And I'm certain at the end during the question session, Sherry's going to have quite a few contributions around psychological safety. But definitely, because even the folks within the organization, if they see these discriminations, these type of things occurring, they'll wonder when it's coming to them next. So in that case, they're distracted and they're not doing, work. So thank you for speaking to psychological safety and drawing that parallel or that central line, or actually drawing that parallel between psychological safety and ramifications of implementing AI if it's not done ethically. Ethically. Just checking the time. We have time for two more questions before we turn it over to the audience. So, what significance does organizational culture, leadership dynamics, and interpersonal relationships hold in shaping the AI-infused workplace of the future? Basically, we're speaking to the intersection of culture and AI.
Absolutely. So yeah, I believe that this is a very important topic that all organizations need to pay attention to. Leadership behavior sets the culture. And not only that, but it's all of the things that we're hearing about AI and what it can do and what other organizations are doing. And us as employees, we're thinking, are they going to do the same thing? Where does that leave me as a valuable human that needs to feel safe and secure? And so, when we're thinking about organizational culture, the leaders and what we do sets the culture, sets the tone. So being able to be transparent and providing that psychological safety, as you mentioned, is critical to the well-being of humans. When I go to work, I want to feel that I'm valued, that my opinions matter, that I'm going to, have some sort of security at the end of the day, and that I'm not competing with technology. And so I think that for leaders, I think it's important to communicate these in open and honest ways. Talk about and offer, just like how we're having this discussion, ask how employees feel about technology and about AI. One of the things that I think we need to dismiss, or not dismiss, but to dismantle, is that when a person is hesitant about technology, we might think that, oh, well, they just don't want to learn, and that they're just scared of technology and they don't want to change. But what we're finding is that is wrapped up in that psychological safety. It's like I have to compete with technology, with AI, with this thing that's considered the smartest organism that we ever have faced. And so when a human feels like they have to compete, for their job or for security, they tend to want to back away. And so what I think we have to do to kind of, foster this culture of inclusiveness is to, as leaders, talk to employees about how they feel, be open and honest about how their feelings, and that their feelings are valid. And that if they're hesitant about gravitating to this technology, understand why, and let them know that we want them to skill up so that they can be successful and feel competent and not feel that they have to compete. So as leaders, um, learning over blame is going to be important as well. Instead of blaming employees about, can they keep up and are they really learning, AI literacy as fast as we want them to, stop and offer different strategies that they can learn and grow. Ask them what problems are they seeing, and how can AI help address those problems. Um, Providing open communication again during staff meetings, have open and honest conversations, deploy a strategy on learning technology and new skills, and leaders modeling the behavior is definitely important. Leaders create culture within their organization. So as leaders, we need to learn AI literacy and AI skills, and also learn how can we provide that safety and structure around employees to be able to want to feel comfortable. Being transparent is one. As a leader, I tell my staff that I use AI all the time, and I'm using it for this reason so that they can feel comfortable in using it as well. No, before it was kind of like this secret little tool that you're using, that you're like, hey, I have this, information, or I have this knowledge and I have this ability to do more, and I'm going to keep it a secret. But now it's like, hey, the cat's out the bag, and we need to be transparent as leaders, so that our employees can use it as well. So long gone are the days of like, trying to hide, that secret assistant, and now it's like, hey, here's how I'm using AI, and here's how we can get to from point A to point B. And being open and transparent with that, I think, is going to set a culture of transparency and acceptance, and moving from being afraid of using AI to being open and honest and wanting to learn because that's going to allow to exploring and allowing for, better productivity within the workplace.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. And I'd like to expressly thank you for unpacking this in a positive way, which serves as an alternative to the glass half empty things that we've been hearing about AI. So people are going to leave here thinking, oh, it can help us. And they also can have suggestions when they go back to their workplaces, their supervisors, right, or their direct reports. Here's a way you can implement this better and make yourself more productive and also feel safer and feel more productive. We'll hold it here, Dr. Jones, and I'm going to transition and turn it over to the audience so that they might ask us some questions. But before I do that, two things. Everyone, I'd like to let you know that later in the year, we'll have Dr. Jones come back as a part two to this. So if there's some questions you don't get to, feel free to email myself or Lisa, and we'll get those to Dr. Jones. And maybe when she comes back, she'll lead with answering those questions. Additionally, Dr. Jones, if you could just for maybe 1 or 2 minutes, really quickly, could you give us any final insights on the implementation of AI that maybe my questions didn't cover?
Yeah, let's see here. Um, Basically, being curious is I think part of being successful in navigating AI in the workplace. Innovation, thinking outside of the box, and understanding that like AI makes so many things possible and accessible faster and more efficient. But it doesn't mean that it's the end all be all. I can remember, and I'm right now creating apps that can solve problems personally and also professionally that I thought it would take thousands of dollars to get a developer to hire and to create and to code out. I can literally create applications that can add to productivity that I never thought was possible before because I'm not a developer. I have ideas and things like that. And so what I say now is the time to really start exploring and asking questions and putting questions or problems down on a piece of paper and then going out and finding if there's a tool that can help solve those problems. And with AI, 9 times out of 10 is either there or someone's working on it, right? So going from, hey, I wish I could, I wish I could, have a developer to create this, or I wish I could, be faster at doing that, to getting access to it. And not only just getting access to it, but talking about it and, creating this movement of it's okay to use AI to help solve problems. Now, not solving all of our problems, but helping to solve problems. So I tell my students, as I teach, that AI is not going to solve all your problems. Yeah, we can put in a prompt and it can create, or write or do all these things. But in order to keep the creativity and the critical thinking skills in place, to think first and then see what AI can do. Um, so the other thing I want to mention is that the organizations and individuals who are successful are the ones who are curious, apply judgment, and lead with human values. Humans are the best at being humans. And so keeping that at the forefront, I think, is going to be key in navigating through an AI driven workspace. I believe that the future belongs to people who think critically and ethically, and that we don't compete with AI, but AI complements the humans in the loop.
Thank you. Perfect segue. Humans are the best at being humans. Thank you. Uh, I would like to turn it over for the first question to Lisa Coates. I saw a great question she dropped in the chat. So, Lisa, if you don't mind, could you unmute and pose your question to Dr. Jones, please? Okay.
And I think that's Lisa Coates, right? Oh,
Yes.
Coates. I don't know if Lisa, you can unmute, but if you can't, maybe we can read the question for Lisa.
Absolutely, I'll read it. Not a problem. Let me just grab it. Okay, Dr. Jones, what recommendations do you? Time out. Okay, yep, perfect. What recommendations do you have for introducing AI learning for staff skill building, and what learning resources have you had good experiences with?
Great question. There's so many resources out there. There's so many organizations who put out free resources to start with. Um, I've learned through courses like taking courses through Coursera. I just Google free courses, for the AI curious individual. There's courses that Google has that are really great, and I'm definitely willing to kind of give, a list of those free courses. There's coding courses. There's courses on how to be an AI consultant, which anyone here can do. It's not up to left to this industry isn't left to people who are tech savvy or have all of these skills and, these accolades and things like that. Literally, a person can start doing AI consulting today. AI consulting is one of the fastest growing fields, that we are finding right now, because organizations just don't know. They're trying to figure it out. And AI consultant can be in any industry that you work in. So if you work in the tech industry or education or maybe it's hospitality, organizations need to understand how to navigate through this time. And so, ensuring that as you're learning and as you're helping your employees to learn, they become experts in their own fields, in their own areas. One of the things that I always recommend is to in your own fields and what you do right now, figure out what are the top three problems that you're having, and then looking for how AI can help address those problems. And once you find out a strategy or a framework or a way around that, you can then teach other people that same skill, and other organizations as well. So staying curious and looking at innovations and not looking at things just in a narrow perspective, but what are the top three, top five problems that I'm seeing in my industry right now? And then how can AI be used to address those problems ethically and strategically?
Hey, thank you so much. Um, Everyone, just because we have a smaller group, just feel free to unmute. Uh,
Mhm.
if you can't, if you can't unmute, I know that some folks are having technical difficulties. Then go ahead and just drop it in the chat, and I'll read it out for you. So go ahead, next person.
Yeah, before the next question, I just want to mention that one of the things that used to work really well in our community was when we had the Trello board with all the resources and links in there, and people could go in there and have the resources. I'm trying to get that sorted again. So for now, and maybe Nikita, what we'll do is we'll get your information on there as well. I am going to drop a link in the chat to the resources hub for the future of work resources, and on the bottom of that, there's a ton of free AI courses and also resources for, I guess, just learning more about how the future of work is impacting your work, your life, and how you can get better at navigating that in general. So there's the link, and this is not the permanent place. This is just the holding space for those resources for now.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, if we can stop the share so that we can maybe be able to
Yes.
engage with everybody.
I don't have a question, but I just unmuted real quickly. I wanted to say to Dr. Jones, thank you so much for drawing all of the threads to psychological safety, because I hear a lot of people talk about ethical AI use and a lot of folks don't make that connection. So thank you for that. It's so important. And also thank you for going back to talking about the bias. I think we used to talk about that many years ago when AI first kind of started, but it seems that we've kind of dropped talking about that and it's still very, very prevalent. So thank you for acknowledging both of those things. And thank you for everything that you mentioned today as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And one of the things I want to mention about bias and the reason why I created human driven tech is because I think the bias comes from people who um, don't have access to technology. Their voices aren't heard. And
Mhm.
so that creates a bias in and of itself. So the more we have these conversations and the more we, spread the knowledge and the more we want everyone to have access to this technology, the less we can lessen the bias. We can't get rid of the bias, but we can lessen it a little bit because all of our voices are heard. Women, young people, people of color, their voices need to be heard and have access to this technology because limited access to technology creates the bias because you have only a few who have access and who can control. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you again.
I do have a question if I can sneak mine in real quick. First of all, you were in our conversation yesterday. Kayla and I were talking very deeply about a lot of the things that you mentioned in your talk today, especially when it comes to characteristics and skills that individual contributors are going to need moving forward. My question specifically is, how do you think leaders or HR practitioners can verify skill attainment with individuals using AI and the AI passing off AI outputs as their own work? So moving forward, how do we make sure our people, in fact, do have the skills that we need them to have, whether they're hard or soft skills?
Megan, this is such a good question. So, part of the reason why I wanted to do the research that I did and I want to dig into a little bit more is so in with me in my positions that I've held, I've also created like interview questions and guided interviews and went and was a part of hiring candidates and screening candidates. And one of the things that I saw that was with organizations were surprisingly the questions that are being asked. Because if you don't ask the right questions, there may be a mismatch in what you're trying to discover and what they already know. So, as interviewers and as employers, we're responsible for asking the right questions to kind of dig out those skills that they might not know how to communicate that. For example, if you're hiring someone who's great at problem solving, great communication skills, leader in their industry, and you're asking like general questions, if you're not able to kind of dig and kind of really get down to to what you're trying to find, you can leave with this candidate really didn't have the skills or wasn't able to communicate, when I feel that the HR manager and the hiring manager is responsible for really digging a little bit deeper, especially when it comes to younger candidates. A lot of times they may not know how to show or demonstrate what you're looking for. And so especially when it comes to AI, and then too, couple that with organizations still trying to figure it out, leaders are still trying to kind of figure it out. And so I think being very clear of what skills are you trying to learn and really vetting those questions before you ask them is going to be critical, I think, especially when you're looking at young employees who are coming out of college or high school, or they have very limited, experience. How can HR managers really ask the right questions and dig a little bit? Don't be afraid to ask those probing questions to really get down to, can they demonstrate? And even if they haven't, expressed those skills overtly, skills are transferable, right? So like, have they used those skills in other ways that you can really dig down a little bit deeper to find that out? I think it's going to be critical in this time with AI that HR managers can, should be considering. So great question.
And Dr. Jones, this is a great point to let that be our last question. We're about 4 minutes out, so thank you so much. And then I'm going to hand it back over to Liza to close us out.
Yes, thank you so much, Sean. Y'all, can we get in the chat in some way? Let's get some emojis, something in there. This was truly a great session. I really appreciate you. Dr. Jones, I apologize for using your first name earlier.
No, you're
I
fine.
need to edify your label. You worked hard for that. So thank you so much. Truly, really appreciate you being here. Please receive all the affirmation. You really did frame the human side and the AI side really nicely. I feel like this was really good foundationally. We know you're coming back, so hopefully this is gonna kind of plant those seeds for us. If nothing else, we'll start thinking about how we're gonna be more curious and use more of our judgment when we're using AI, and thinking of questions we can bring for the next time that you're with us. And I also want to say thank you to Sean. Really great facilitation. You had some really, really great questions that kind of helped me kind of think of other things as well. So I'm definitely going to be more curious, I guess you could say, about the way that we're presenting this information. Now, we are recording this session, so we will be posting the recording on our Substack, which is actually linked in that link tree link that I sent. I also want to make note that if you have been joining our Wednesday webinar series, I dropped a link in the chat because our webinar series has actually moved to a brand new platform. So please make note that even though you may be already registered for that platform, but you probably never got the email about that. So please go in there and make sure that you are registered for that. I know, Sean, you were there yesterday, so a couple of other people were there. So I really appreciate for those of you who have gone ahead and re-registered. And then you'll also note that there's a survey on that link tree, a future of work readiness survey. This is the beta version of that survey. So feel free to take a peek at that survey, review it, maybe take the survey. Let us know any feedback you feel like maybe that readiness survey could be better, or it could be asking different questions. Let us know and we can make that better. I will make note that Dr. Jones, Nikita Jones, actually just posted in the chat the deck from the session today. I didn't want to ask because I was like, oh, maybe this is her proprietary
No.
information, but thank you for dropping it because you had some really great citations in there. I want to dig into that juiciness of learning all that data. So thank you so much. And in the last few seconds, I just want to say Happy New Year again to everybody. Like Sherry Collins did, drop your LinkedIn in there. So I'll keep this open for just a couple more seconds if you want to do that, and I'll make sure that it shows up in the recording and the follow up that's posted on Substack. And with that, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I guess Happy New Year. And for the last few seconds, I'll try to play us out with some music. So give me a moment. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Take care.
We got the jams. Happy New Year. Woo!
Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy.